June 6, 2024, the Board of Appeals regarding public input. Public input shall be limited to statements from the public relating to any issues with the jurisdiction of the Chelmsford Zoning Board of Appeals that are not currently the subject of a pending public hearing before the Zoning Board of Appeals. Public comment on any pending public hearing shall only be heard during such public hearings and shall be limited to 3 minutes' time. What was the other thing I have to say? We're broadcasting. All meetings are televised live and available on demand by the Chelmsford Telemedia. Our first hearing is a new public hearing, 203 Turnpike Road, SmartLink LLC, on behalf of AT&T, requesting a modification to a previously approved wireless facility, a special permit for the installation of a backup generator in accordance with the federally mandated FirstNet program, which provides service for the first responders in case of power outages. This property is located in the P District, parcel ID map 106, block 397, lot 1. Someone here tonight to speak for Turnpike Road? You get your name and address at the podium, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Adam Bailey. I live at 287 South Street, number 4 in Douglas, Mass. Here representing AT&T and General Dynamics to get approval for the installation of the new 50 kW diesel generator.
Thank you. Maybe you could kind of run us through it. I imagine the application covered most, but maybe not all of the details of this.
The only thing that may be of concern is the area where the generator is being expanded by a couple of feet to accommodate the new generator, but it's very similar to the one that you have out front of the building with no fence around it, but the fence will be taken down. I think it's going to be expanded 4 feet on one side and 10 feet to the other direction. And the biggest thing is it's to meet the mandates for the first responders and so forth, and we'll keep the cell towers up and running in the event of power outages, which is good for everyone. And that's about it. What else? Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from the board at this time? Do we have letters?
Yes.
I read the
Received the letters in
application.
that we've received? From the
DPW.
engineer, is it? Sheila Joyce, project engineer. The office has reviewed the project application plans and documents submitted to the DPW on June 3rd, 2024 for the following public hearing. 203 Turnpike Road, SmartLink LLC on behalf of AT&T, requesting a modification to a previously approved wireless facility, a special permit for the installation of a backup generators in accordance with the federally mandated FirstNet program, which provides service for the first responders in case of power outages. This property is located in the P District. As a result of this review, the office has the following comments. DPW recommends that an emergency spill kit and a spill response plan for the generator be kept on site at 203 Turnpike Road. Have any concerns about complying with that?
Do not.
I have another letter from the Chelmsford Water District with no concerns. A letter from the police with no concerns. I have a letter from the assessor's office with no comments or concerns. And I have the actual application from the building department.
So that's building department, no concerns.
No concerns. Any questions from the board? I'll open it up to the public. If anyone would like to speak in favor or opposition to this generator, now is the time. Seeing none,
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
by Jamie, second by Steve. All in favor? Aye. We can take it up right now. If there's any further questions, seems straightforward. definitely a necessary part of the program, so someone like to make a motion? Anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve the modification for the special permit for the new generator at
203 Turnpike.
203 Turnpike in accordance with the letters read in.
Then I get a second by Peter. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
The next hearing is,
Well, I can recuse myself on this.
okay,
Yeah. All right.
we still have a board of 5.
You still good?
2, 3.
Yes, yep.
36 Bartlett Street, William L. Harvey III is requesting a special permit under Section 195-9 Use Regulations, A4, in accordance with Section 195-13, conversion of dwelling units to convert a single-family dwelling existing prior to 1938 into a two-family dwelling and other relief deemed necessary. The property is located in the residential B district, parcel ID map 84, block 348. This hearing is being held pursuant to an order of remand issued by the Land Court. I think I'm going to ask Paul to sort of, for the record, explain
Sure.
a little bit of the process and how it came to be.
Yeah, so the board's original decision was the subject of an appeal by the applicant to the land court. As part of that process, the land court holds what's known as a case management conference. At that case management conference, the judge presiding on the case, Judge Speicher, indicated very strongly that he felt that the board's decision was unlikely to be upheld if the full appeal went forward, and strongly recommended that the board consider mediating. We did that. A mediation was held on March 18th, at which point a preliminary memorandum of understanding was entered into, in which the board would request a remand back to it, and there were a number of conditions that were agreed to by the applicant that the board would be able to impose. Subsequently, an executive session was held with the board, and the full board agreed to adopt the memorandum of understanding and move forward with the process with the land court to request the order of remand. That was done, the order of remand is issued, and that's where we're at tonight. I think it would be helpful to go over the conditions that were discussed as part of the memorandum of understanding. One is that the use of the two-unit structure authorized by the special permit shall be limited to 6 vehicles parked on the property, of which not more than 1 vehicle may be a commercial vehicle. Second condition, the property will not be used to access the commonly owned property at 47 Boston Road, Chelmsford, Massachusetts, for the purposes of a development pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 40B, Sections 20 to 23. The third one, the board's decision may not be interpreted to prohibit the development of a single-family house on a rear lot with access from Bartlett Street. I want to go into that in a little greater detail. So the applicant indicated during the mediation session that he may at some point intend to move forward with a special permit application with the planning board to develop a rear lot. This decision would neither approve nor deny the ability to do that. It's just clarifying that nothing within this decision prohibits the applicant from moving forward on such application. The fourth condition, the special permit shall be based upon the plan submitted with the application, with no exterior changes to the existing structure. Any future changes to the existing structure, if any, will require a modification of the special permit. And then finally, the last one, existing screening consisting of large rhododendrons shall be maintained by the applicant to ensure sufficient screening from abutting properties.
Thank you.
So those are the conditions that were agreed to as part of the mediation and that the board may impose as part of its decision.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board regarding the
I have a silly question. We're requiring a screen of rhododendrons.
They
Can
exist.
we- Yeah, I know they exist, but what if the state has a blight on rhododendrons? I mean, if we're requiring it, can it, I mean, I can understand if it's worded that a screen of plant life be there, but
So, I'm trying to think now,
I mean,
what the
do we-
tree was it Dutch elm?
yeah,
There was recently,
and chestnut did the same thing. No,
No, it's been a while.
the only question I'm thinking, I don't mind having a screen
No.
and approving a screen, but
No, this was going back quite a while ago, so I'm sure that Mr. Haverty didn't remember. It is to maintain the current rhododendrons on my property.
I understand.
So I have very large rhododendrons, which are about 10 feet high, which block the rear of the house. So it's to maintain those, not to take them down.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
and that's the condition that I read. I think
I'm sorry.
What Rod is suggesting is what happens if sometime in the future there is some sort of ecological issue that the state is coming in and basically saying, you've got to take these out.
I know it's silly to ask
I-
that, but can we really?
But, and again, it did happen, I think, with the Dutch elm trees where they were requiring them to be taken down.
And
If
chestnuts
that is
did the
to
same
occur,
thing.
I don't, first of all, I don't think it would be a violation if it's, state order would supersede
My
this
question,
condition.
yeah, my question really, the salient question is, can we require that a particular type of plant be grown
Well, it's the
there?
existing plant.
This was an agreement that we had
Yeah.
with the applicant, so
Yes, you
we're
can
all on
require.
board. I mean, I understand a plane could crash and burn the rhododendrons up, but
Well, there is that.
Practice, the planning board approves landscaping plans with specific species listed on them, as does the Conservation Commission. So yes, you can actually put that in special conditions to have certain species.
Okay, let's hope
We're
there's no
just-
blight on
And in
rhododendrons.
this
We're
case,
just
it's two.
specifying what is
Mind getting
currently
rid of the ones on my
existing.
property.
Correct. No, I
That's all we're
understand
doing,
that.
we're just detailing what is currently existing.
I understand that. Okay, well, I'll
But it
shut
is
up.
common practice, to answer your question. It is common practice.
Okay.
Yes, a procedural question, if Peter is on the,
original
the-
denial?
this document from the,
This is a duly noticed new public hearing. It's
Okay.
you're starting from scratch in terms of
okay,
anybody who's here tonight is eligible to vote.
okay. Okay,
I'm sure we have no letters. I'll open this up to the public. If someone would like to speak in favor or opposition to this, now is the time.
So I have some questions.
You can approach the podium and get your name and address, sir.
David Pellegrini, I'm at 29 Bartlett Street. So there's a number of neighbors that first opposed this project. And I don't know what the time frame is, but we just learned of this like a week ago. We just got something in the mail just a week ago. So we had no time to prepare or even knew this was happening. I don't know what kind of notification that we had or that we would get that had gone to appeal and it had gone through this remand process and that there was a deal struck. That's all happening without us knowing about that. Is that common? Or are you supposed to let the people that have been opposing the project know that there's a deal going on? And lastly, what has changed? What has changed on the project from where we were last year that now all of a sudden that the town is granting the ability for this project to go forward?
So in answer to your first question, this is a duly noticed public hearing. So notice was sent as required under General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 11. Certified letters to all parties in interest were sent.
When?
It's also posted in a newspaper of general circulation 2 weeks before the hearing. So that the notice requirements from the statute have been met. In terms of what has changed, we got the feedback from the land court judge that he did not think that there was a strong likelihood, or even a small likelihood, that the board's decision would be upheld, because he did not find any substantial basis for the denial of the special permit. He encouraged us strongly to go to mediation, which is what we did, and we entered into a mediated resolution, which allowed us to impose some conditions that protect the neighborhood that the board might not otherwise have been allowed to impose. So that's where we're at.
So, so if the applicant was able to plead his case in front of the judge on this, why weren't we given the opportunity to plead in our case in front of the judge about this? Because, you know, we have strong feelings about the number of cars that are going to be parked there, and what what it's going to look like and how it's going to impact that residential street. And we didn't even get to say that to the judge. We didn't even get to talk about that. We weren't even included.
So the filing of the appeal was filed with the town clerk's office. Anybody could have checked with the town clerk to see if an appeal was filed. Any party has the right to request to intervene in the litigation at the land court. They don't necessarily have the right to be allowed to intervene, but they have the right to request intervention. And certainly any party could review the land court docket and see that there was a hearing being held and show up for that hearing. But it's not practice. It's not even not common practice. It's not practice at all for abutting property owners to be notified of court hearings on a matter that's been appealed. That just doesn't happen.
Well, why? I mean, you've notified us as abutters that there's a project, and you do that because you want us to be heard and you want us to give us the opportunity to voice our opinion. But then you go to an appeal and you don't allow us to know that there's further conversation or further negotiating going on. It's like you invited us to the first party, then you had a second party and you didn't invite us. And how are we supposed to know? I'm supposed to look every day or every week at the newspaper or the postings to see if the applicants posted an appeal?
So there are requirements for notice to abutters. The board has complied with all of those requirements. And there's really-
Including a notice of the appeal period itself, which was mailed out as well, following the original decision. So all the abutters received a letter stating that there was a 20-day appeal period, so anyone could have appealed the decision the board made. In this case, the applicant appealed the decision. So on that notice, it actually told you when the end of the appeal period was. I did not get any calls asking me if there were any appeals that had been filed. Otherwise, I would have informed.
So you're saying that we all received a notice that gave us 20 days to make
That
an
an appeal
appeal.
is possible. You received a notice
Why would we
stating-
appeal something that we felt we won? That it
Well, in
was
this case, you felt like you won, but in other cases where the board approves projects, sometimes neighbors do want to appeal. So just as we duly note the meeting to let the abutters come here, we also note what the decision is.
So you're
to-
saying we got a notice that said that that there was an appeal and
That
that
there was a
the
denial decision filed with the town clerk from this board, and that there's a 20-day appeal period.
and when did we receive this?
I can look through the file and let you know.
Because we received
Welcome
one
to
notice.
check with the town after the 20 days to see if an appeal was filed.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
You would need to check with the town to see if an appeal was filed, which it was, in that 20-day period. Once that 20-day period elapses, he can't file, and no one can file an appeal. It's done. So if you checked after 20 days, you would have found there was an appeal filed.
And then the way the process works is, once the mediation occurs, there's a joint request for remand for another duly noticed public hearing, which is what is being held tonight, to give anybody the opportunity to speak to the board and let them know how they feel about the proposed modified decision. And then from that, there is a new 20-day appeal period, and any abutter who feels as though they are aggrieved by the board's decision to approve the permit now has the right to file their own appeal to Superior Court or Land Court.
Okay, and are there new plans that have been issued that,
No. Same plans.
same ones?
Same plans. The only thing that's new
Same plans that you guys shot down last year?
in that the land court gave very strong indication would not survive if we went through a full appeal process. So again, the board took advantage of the mediation opportunity to get a negotiated settlement that allowed it to impose conditions it would not otherwise have been able to impose, which includes, by the way, a restriction on the number of vehicles that can be parked there. If this had gone through to a full decision from the land court that overturned the board's decision, there would have been a remand ordering the board to issue the special permit, and they wouldn't have been allowed to include these conditions. So the board had to make the best of the situation that was in front of it, and that's what this is doing.
So, from this point forward, do any of the abutters we have the ability to appeal this?
Within 20 days of the filing of this special permit with the town clerk's office, anybody that is a party in interest that has is able to show that they are an aggrieved party by the board's decision has a right to appeal to the land court or the superior court.
Okay. Can you tell me what date that is?
Well, it'll be whenever the decision is filed. I don't
So
know when
after
the decision
tonight,
will be filed.
Assuming there's a affirmative vote, I'll sign the decision within a week. And at that point, I'll go to, I'm going to say that, but Becky may not be ready for that. And after that, it gets filed with the town, and then the 20-day appeal period starts.
And notification, again, will be sent to all interested parties so that they know that the decision has
Including
been
the butters.
issued and that the appeal period has begun to run.
And then who reviews the appeal or,
Call a lawyer, all right? Call a lawyer. You're talking too much. I get places to go.
you know what? I didn't want to be here tonight. No, I didn't
Please
want to be
address
here
the
tonight.
board.
You're the one that brought me
Everybody-
out tonight.
You know, you're wasting
Address the
my
board.
time.
Excuse me?
Address the board. We don't want to have sidebars.
Who's going to review the appeal?
Can we get quiet in the room, please?
Hire a lawyer.
Can you repeat that?
Who's going to review the appeal, our appeal? Does it come here or does it go in front of the judge?
Goes in front of the
It goes to
judge.
land court, I believe.
Write a big fat check.
Okay. Okay.
Just to answer your previous question about when you were notified of the appeal period, the certificate of mailing was stamped by the post office August 31st. And so another one will be coming out within a couple of weeks when this paperwork is filed, assuming that it gets voted in favor.
Any further requests for public comment? Seeing none, entertain a motion to close the public hearing
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
by Jamie. Second by Glenn. All in favor? Unanimous? So we find ourselves really without a lot to discuss at this point. The decision was made, and I think it's protected the neighbors, the abutters, and all interested parties as best we could. So here we are.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special permit under 195-5 Use Regulations A4 for 36 Bartlett Street, accounting for the
Order of remand.
court of remand and the
And the five
restrictions-
conditions
and the
listed.
five conditions listed.
By Steve, do we have a second? By Glenn? All in favor?
All right.
It's unanimous? We can find Peter and see if he,
Oh, he's back.
oh, there
So
we
I
go.
will draft that like I usually do, and I'll forward it to you, and Paul, I'll forward it to you as well, just to make
Perfect.
sure all the wording is correct.
Yep.
But I'll go ahead and just copy and
Right,
paste what
after
was in the
Paul responds,
review.
we'll
Yeah. Okay,
come down and sign.
thank you.
Our next business is the ADU LAA update. turn to Glenn. I know there's been some,
Lot been going on.
Mr. Chair, you don't need me for this, do you?
no, I don't think we do. We're just taking a report from Glenn. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Good night, Paul.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
I provided to Becky a excerpt from
I'll keep it posted on.
the representative's proposed housing bond bill referring to ADUs. And this is kind of generally what was talked about previously, that the state was going to maybe pass down some mandate on ADUs. It wasn't expected to come this way, but this is the House's version. There'll be a Senate version, and then they'll get together and hash out a
Negotiate
common.
some sort of,
But some of the things in this is that they are mandating that ADUs be allowed in all cities and towns in Massachusetts. And that they, one of the things it doesn't say is whether they're attached or detached, which we've kind of fumbled with over the time. But it also says that they don't have to be, either one has to be occupied by the owner.
they do or do not? sir?
Do not.
Do not.
They could be owned by an investor who buys a house and puts an ADU in. And also it talks about how the size of it can be up to 50% of the main unit, main house, or less than, or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller, which puts a negative on smaller homes. Let's say they were built in the 60s, a split, a 24 by 42, 44 split, or a cape, small cape, 24 by 32, which were the common sizes. That would mean that their ADUs are 600 square feet, whereas newer houses that are 3,000 square feet, 4,000 square feet
Would be 900.
would be 900.
And 900 would be the cap, where our cap technically is 750 with the ability to give a waiver.
Right, and the state
Larger.
guideline right now is 900, but it's just a guideline, there's no law on
And
it.
again, the Senate there'll be, so this won't really appear this year as a law.
No, it's got a long way to go. But part of, I've been talking to various groups in the town, and I'll get to that. But one of the things that seems to come up, and it was based more on the MBTA, is that cities and towns are more apt to approve something that they develop themselves rather than a mandate from the state. And that the idea that if Chelmsford were to create a committee to study this and came up with rules on their own, that it would be more likely to be accepted by town than if it comes down as a mandate from the state, a big hammer.
Do we have an option if it's a mandate from the state? I mean, isn't that,
No, but it's being fought. The MBTA, as
Oh, I
you know, is
understand that,
being
yeah.
fought in a lot of places. And what's in here leaves lots of branches out there and doesn't really address the fine details. This is just kind of a broad
I
stroke.
can probably, I didn't read all 120 odd pages,
Didn't either.
but I did glass through it, and there's a lot of information in there, a lot of,
So the,
and it's hard for me to compare to what we have now, which I believe some of it referenced anyways. There was overlap on laws that we do have today, so.
so anyway, it's got to go, the Senate will have their own version, then they will collaborate and produce a final version. Where that all goes, nobody knows right now. So it's really a long way off. At the same time, I met with David Hedison and Connie, who's kind of right hand at the Chelmsford Housing Authority, to get some feel for what's we have in town. The main things that came out of that is we have a number of properties, but we haven't really added any. And we have the West Campus where there
Yeah, I'm
are
gonna say, that's a
there
big
are
one.
44 units, and they are, if a project involves federal money, you cannot limit it to the town of Chelmsford. If it's state money, if it's federal, state money, you can. So, that's one of the problems they face. They have a number of properties. The average wait time is 7 years, unless you have a critical need. In other words, let's say you fell down the stairs, you live alone, and you need someplace to go right now, well, you could move to the head of the list. But in general, it's a 7-year wait. Also, the fact that they have properties that are either public or private. They operate a separate organization, which is called Choice, which is private. And historically, David and his group were able to get monies to work on these projects. They had a hard time getting land was their biggest problem. They couldn't get money to buy land, but they could get money to build. But as time has gone on, more and more cities and towns have figured out the course of action to apply for these monies. So it's hard for them to get money compared to where it was before. The facility at the West Campus, they still don't have the cash to build the units over there. He's hoping to have it by the end of the year. They're in the queue.
What are they building now?
44 units.
You're referring to
they're
the senior
building
housing,
stuff up there
the
that's not
separate
the
parcel
affordable
within
housing.
the project.
Oh, so there's more than one element building in that area?
Well, there are roughly 400 units. One section was given to David, the land, to build 54 units. But he doesn't have the money to build them right now. It's been submitted to get the money for the building.
Glenn, that was specifically senior housing, correct?
Right. And so that's up in the air. And some things that people don't know, one of the places that they had for senior income was the old high school, which is out front or beside this building.
Oh,
There are no residents in there because the building is so deteriorated that they don't have the money to fix it. So they had to move everybody out of there. They've been out of there for a year. So that's a negative on what we've had. And what they charge people varies anywhere from 30 to 70% of the AMI, which is the area median income. And in many cases, people, they charge people even less than that. They look for an average. And if someone is really needy, they can stretch the rules a little bit. But David has so much information. When you sit down with him, he just keeps waving it on you, and it's just impossible sometimes to keep track because there's so many rules and regulations involved in it. But in general, his main problem right now is getting money because cities and towns have all figured out the process, and everybody's requesting money.
Isn't there a builder, the River Neck project, isn't that changing to housing from the commercial?
No, that's the old Mercury computer building. They want to build 40 Bs over there, and that's with the planning board. Have they come up to them as
that's
yet?
No, it's
coming
not at
before
that
us.
part
That's
yet.
a 40B.
That's-
40B, it's coming up
in front of
down
us.
the road. It's not up yet.
But they're only, I thought I saw
At
something.
River
where they're
Road,
80.
at River Road, the developer wanted to build a certain amount of standalone townhouses and an apartment building. And that's still up in the air. For his own employees, that was his idea. He owns most of the hotels in town, and he wanted to make it affordable for his employees to live in the town. But that's still got a way to go. I've also found that there's a lot of publications out there, one of which is the Accessory Dwelling Units Case Study, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. It talks about 6 towns that have successfully introduced ADUs for some time with great success. The one that it talks about mostly that is a great success is Lexington, Massachusetts, which you wouldn't expect. Also, it talks about Barnstable on the Cape and Wellfleet on the Cape.
What made them, what's defining them as successful?
Limited opposition from residents.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's the prevention or what's causing, the towns aren't able to do ADUs because of opposition?
Well, the town sets up what the rules are, If the town is greatly favorable to ADUs, the rules are relatively simple. If they're not, they can put up roadblocks in their zoning. The documentation that came down from the House says that basically you can put an ADU on any lot in any residential area, zoned residential in the state of Massachusetts, period. Whether it's 10,000 square feet or 50,000 square feet. And if you think about Lexington, there was limited amounts of land available, but the town felt that they wanted to encourage lower-income housing in addition to their high-priced housing.
Have they built a lot?
Yes,
So
comparatively.
the level of success didn't have anything to do with access to funds?
No,
So
no.
how are they able to get funds? And
The
we're not
funds
able
are
to?
always private funds. If you want to build an ADU, it's coming from your pocket,
Okay.
not from the city or town's pocket.
So we have we have two hindrance, the town and private funding then, or we don't have the
Yes.
private funding because we don't have town support?
Well, if you own your own home, you have a funding source. You can remortgage your house. Or if you're a multi-generational family that you want to move in, has a house, they can sell their house and build the ADU and live there instead. So but there is no public monies available for this kind of thing. There are more and more companies being created that do nothing but build ADUs. They do all of the permitting, they do all of the site work, they do all of the infrastructure. They build them to the latest, greatest building specifications as far as energy usage and so forth. In many cases, they will not build them with gas, any kind of gas involved in the houses, only electric. But it's a burgeoning business, and some of those companies are based in Massachusetts because of what they feel is going to happen here if the state has its way. There are various arguments. One was in the Globe, argument, should accessory dwelling units be allowed statewide in Massachusetts? And you have arguments on either side, why it's good, why it's not good. And again, both sides have pretty valid arguments. So there's a lot going on. I reached out also to Pat Wojcik from the Board of Selectmen. She asked me to, I asked her to meet with them rather than just show up during the open meeting. And she asked me if I could just delay it till after the summer. They've only got one more meeting before the summer break for them. And I said, sure, I'll come back in the fall because this is a long-term solution. I sent a message to Deidre Connolly, has been reelected as the chairman of the planning board. I haven't heard back from her, but I'll reach out to her again. I spoke to Fred Brosseau, who is with the Council on Aging, which is kind of connected to the senior center. They have a housing domain group, which kind of specializes in housing, and they have a new person who's going to be kind of leading that group, who is coming from David Hedison's group. So he asked me to reach out to her, and if she's in agreement, he'll put me on the schedule. They just meet online. I met with Evan Belansky. We had, this past week, there was a NEMCOG meeting, which was the second kind of symposium that they had on housing and the housing crisis in the state. And while there, I talked to Evan at length. He felt that having a separate committee to study this was certainly warranted, that he would be in favor of it. He suggested, didn't really suggest it, but he said one of the alternatives to having it brought to town meeting for approval by town meeting is to go put it as a ballot item, because we have more and more younger families moving into the city, and younger families may be more inclined, seeing what the needs of, their families are down the road, and it might make a difference. Town meeting is supposed to represent the views of the general townspeople, but is that always the case? I don't know. But the way you really find out about what's everyone's view is you put it on the ballot. and majority rules, simple. And, Deb Taverner is the Housing Advisory Board's chairperson. I haven't heard from her, but I will reach out to her as well. But in general, everyone I've talked to so far is supporting that there should be, it's just too big a topic for any one existing committee to talk about. Everybody has their own look at what the issues are, and the only way you're gonna bring them all to the table is for a separate group to study it.
Did you talk to the veterans support rep to see how the veterans are being impacted?
That's a great suggestion.
Who's the main person there now, do you know?
Regina.
Regina,
Regina is still?
she's still there.
Okay, I'll reach out to her as well.
Appreciate it.
So it has a long way to go.
Yes, sir.
Glenn, I'm curious, in that a guidebook where there were several towns, was that specific to Massachusetts or in general? And they
There are 3 towns that they also talk about that are not Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
They also talk about Santa Cruz, California, Portland, Oregon, and Fuquay City area, which is 50 miles west off of DC. But I'll give you, if you'd like to read the book,
So
I'll
was
provide you with
it,
the
so
book.
Lexington was successful because private homeowners are building ADUs on
Yes.
their property, and
Yes.
which is authorized by their bylaws?
Yes.
Okay.
I know that one of your main passions about this is the senior housing, because we don't have enough in town. I was curious, the successful towns, does it speak to whether or not it helped increase senior housing availability? 'Cause
Yeah,
one of my-
they're saying that there's a section in here which kind of brings it all together.
I'm just wondering if any of the towns incentivize the homeowners to rent them out to seniors, and
They
make that one of the
incentivize them in
goals.
some ways.
Okay, well, that's good.
You know, it brings in more tax revenue.
Mm-hmm.
One of the arguments, the big arguments, is the infrastructure issue. Oh,
We have our own.
we got more kids going to schools.
Yeah.
We got more fire, we gotta have more police, we gotta have more water, we gotta have more sewerage. These are all infrastructure issues. And some people argue that, well, the state comes down with the mandates for ADUs. Where's the money for the infrastructure
Right.
to support all these? And that's a valid argument. And
Oh,
again, it's
absolutely.
all part of the puzzle.
Well, I really don't see what the next 10 years in Chelmsford is gonna, what's gonna happen with the sewer. It's gonna take some creative thinking to sort that out.
There is, as far as I know, there is no plan. They talked about tying it to the MWRA. The closest point is Bedford.
Really?
They would have to run a pipe to
Bedford.
Bedford to tie in.
Imagine that.
Those rates are?
The ticking on that.
MWRA is an expensive deal.
Has anyone looked up at the skyline and seen our power lines? Oh my,
The which?
the power lines and how, like, so in center of town, I looked yesterday, they're like, they're falling, the poles leaning and all the lines and how they're running and stuff.
The power lines in the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some challenging poles. They've been.
Or treachery looking, like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm like,
Well, I guess they were all weighted down from all the cables that
all
they
the,
put on.
like,
Yeah.
just as,
They
so
were
much
never
is
designed to hold
run,
that
it's
much
just
weight.
like,
When I was on the
holy-
Board of Selectmen, one of the big hot buttons was all the double poles in town.
Yeah.
Remember that.
And it still is.
It's
It's ongoing.
I mean, just an eyesore to look at, but the safety concern, I'm like, because there's a piece of pole swinging out there, and then it's a guy line to the nether pole. So it's kind of just like.
But
this-
I'll give you the book so you can look through it. But there's a little piece of stud, and it's like all the pros and cons, all in one paragraph.
Oh, okay.
So, may send it out to everyone. And
Is
get
that
a-
book available on Amazon?
Yep, for
Okay.
our money. It's not cheap, and
Oh,
it's
okay.
only this big. I also have other books I've downloaded to my Kindle that I'm gonna read over the summer about it. But, it's almost a question of two. would you rather have big housing projects, or would you like to have small ADUs dispensed throughout the community?
Well, you can control it.
Which one you rather have? Guns or butter?
And some families with an ADU on their property might just have their seniors, family members, instead of having them in a senior housing
They can rent
development.
them out. There's
be
there's
with
nothing
their
to stop
home.
you from renting it out if
Oh,
this
I mean,
is
that's
approved.
true, but I mean, or reduce the plight of the senior housing development with their family member and have them living in the, like,
And you have also the nursing homes, which are closing left and right. Where are they going?
right. But if we,
Are nursing homes reducing?
Oh,
oh, yeah.
Closing up every day.
I did not know
Some
that.
are being shut down.
Oh my gosh. even the
Losing money.
veterans,
They can't exist on what Medicaid pays them.
or doesn't pay them. I mean, look at the big hospital system that just went bankrupt from.
So anyway, that's kind of where things are right now.
Thank you for the report.
Thank you, Mr. Glenn.
There's a long way to go. If they do go to make a committee, I hope you can sit on it or chair it perhaps and make a difference with Chelmsford anyways.
Well, it'd be nice to have you on it as well.
You think?
Yeah.
My wife may feel differently. But we'll see what goes on. We'll see what goes on. All right, I think that covers everything. We have a meeting minutes from 5/16/24. You had a chance to review those. You can take a look now if you have not.
Was this one done the old way or the new way?
A mix,
A mix?
a
Okay.
mix. It was a mix, so.
How did you feel it worked out the first time through?
I thought so.
Did you have to do a lot of correcting?
On some I have, let me just, I'm kind of browsing through it a little bit more. I added in some detail on a couple of things, but not too much. This meeting was pretty straightforward, so it didn't have a lot of like technical detail to go over and add in. I'm just kind of refreshing my own memory, just because I've just done another 3 sets for planning board as well. And what I've noticed is it kind of depends. So what happens is the software itself, the artificial intelligence software, creates a transcript. The transcript itself isn't always accurate. Sometimes it has the speaker's name incorrect. And so I have to go through it and confirm. And they're not always picking up on the motions and the actual, the motions, who made the motion, who seconded it. The edible minutes that they provide don't ever state so far, it's one of the suggestions I have to make next, is stating when the public hearing is actually closed. So no matter what, I'm still going in, confirming everything is accurate. In months of the planning board meetings, the initial content I got in the fall was very technical. I thought, this is great. This saved me hours of having to listen to every single piece, and I can just go in and confirm that the speakers are accurate, the motions are accurate. More recently, the couple of minutes I received, I found had a lot less content to it, so I think it depends who, on their side, is taking that transcript and creating these draft minutes for me. So it's still a work in progress.
A process.
It is, it's a process. It's a relatively new program on the municipal level, and so I think with municipalities and these two boards, we like more technical detail because we rely on it moving forward. So, but at the same time, it's been such a time saver. It's been such a time saver. I may have overdone it on the detail before, so, but it has been such a time saver. So I'm grateful to have this accessible.
Did you get a transcriber?
Did I get a transcriber?
I must have missed it.
Chairman, I'm going to excuse myself.
Yes, sir. You have a good evening. Thank you.
Oh, Jamie, you weren't here, I guess,
I
at the
didn't miss last meeting.
So we now have access to software that uses artificial intelligence, goes over our video coverage, creates a transcript, and then we also pay for a service of having edible minutes. I still have to go in, and they're not they're not accurate.
Yep.
As I mentioned with
Yep.
the motions and things like that. So I still go in to make sure the accuracy is there. But in terms of a meeting, the hearing summaries, that's where I'm saving a wealth of time. Yeah, because I had quite a backlog, not so much for this board. This board, I kept up more so our meetings were shorter, but also I'm the one drafting the decisions. And so by drafting the decision, drafting the
You're
meetings,
familiar with
I'm
the
already
process.
and I'm sitting in the meeting, so I'm familiar with the process. So I was able to spit those out faster. But since last summer, planning board's meetings got pretty lengthy and detailed with a lot of big projects going on, and I fell far behind on the meeting minutes. So this has been great. I'm catching up now. So I suspect I'll be caught up by, because they're still missing some from last year. So I'm now caught up with planning board's meeting minutes for this calendar year, and I have 4 more sets to do for last calendar year. So I suspect that I'll be caught up by end of the summer, given holidays and vacation time.
It's not
Give me
unusual.
bank accounts any day of the week.
When I was on the Board of Selectmen, they were months behind sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
You know, my wife is on the Housing
Vietnamese
Advisory
students,
Board, and I
like
told her, don't be the clerk. And she was the clerk.
The hardest job.
I said, it's the most difficult job because everyone else, the meeting's over, not for the clerk.
Yeah, it's getting started. All right, well, could I get a motion to approve the minutes? If, Steve, you
still on
finished
that.
them, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, I have a word use problem. I'm sorry, Becky.
No, what's that?
On number 1, second paragraph, the Indian Drive.
Indian Drive? Okay,
Yeah.
let me scroll to that. Yep.
I don't mean to be a mensch.
No, that's okay.
On the second paragraph, second line, 3 words in, I believe you meant to say one, not once. You
Yes,
see that?
thank you. Yes.
Sorry.
No, and I appreciate that
Think we
because
found our new Nancy.
I don't like those
Right.
types of errors, so I
Thanks-
appreciate
thanks,
you
Rod.
mentioning that.
Well,
Nancy,
you
you
know,
don't
my
like that
job
song.
is a
Nancy would have
grammatician.
never have let that go.
No, and that's okay.
We might
That's
have our new
all right.
Nancy.
Because the thing is once you stare at it long enough and reread it yourself, you don't
Oh, yeah.
see your own.
I do it all the time.
Right on.
Yeah,
does,
I'm,
Yes,
I'm,
you
that's,
don't see it. So, thank you.
I sympathize. I do that with my books all the time.
Is that your only concern?
Yeah.
For getting into stuff like that, on number 2, the second line
Be
at
all
the
night.
end,
Number
it says
2.
operation of a electric.
Ah,
It should be an electric substation.
you're
Oh,
absolutely
well,
right.
that's true. I missed that one.
Okay. I'm
I
just
tried to
trying
give you
find
the
that.
opportunity to cover all of those, but when you said you were done, I was like, okay.
Steve's right.
One of the best minutes in town.
Battle of English. Here we go.
Actually,
The battle, it definitely would
thank you.
be Ann.
Yes.
actually, Steve, since that's the predicate before a proper noun, it's a stylistic optional change.
No, it's not.
Oh, here we go.
I will not accept that from you.
Only one I know is conjunction junction.
Watched a lot of cartoons on Saturday morning, didn't you?
So,
All I know is
So I don't think I've gotten a motion.
member
I
not present, Jamie Outland Brown.
make sure I didn't miss it. Did I miss it?
don't think so.
Okay.
Can we get a motion to approve the minutes at this point?
I'll motion we approve these minutes with the 2 minor
Rod?
changes.
Yep.
Second by Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
All right.
And that's what you want, is the verbal, so that
Oh,
thing
actually,
gets it.
Jamie didn't vote, so it's not
I wasn't
unanimous. She's
present.
abstaining. That's right.
Abstaining. I was
Thank
not
you.
present for that meeting.
So doesn't someone else vote at that point?
No, you don't have to
Ron
have a-
raised his hand.
Yeah. So we're good, yeah.
I like it when my name's in
She
print.
could read the minutes.
But she
I
can't.
can't
not there.
attest to the
Can't attest
validity
to-
of the,
yes.
the
So
validity.
technically, you're not supposed to vote on them if
That's why I
you're
don't
not
vote on the
present.
minutes, because I can't attest to the validity of the content.
Well made, okay.
But the minutes are something that all the alternates can vote on because they sat in on the meeting and they can
If they're
attest to
present
the
on the meeting,
content.
they can
Yeah.
test the content.
If she had done the Mullen, she could have done the minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I could have.
Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to
Jamie?
adjourn.
All right.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Jamie made the motion.
When is our next meeting?
July 11th.
All right, I won't be here.